So hi, this is Erica Glessing, and I am the editor and host of this summit and the book, The Power of Releasing Judgment. I have with me Adelle King from San Francisco, one of our fabulous authors. Welcome, Adelle.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I know. What trouble can we cause?
Oh, yes.
That little gas we're going to get in.
I can get that.
I live for that. So tell us a little bit about you and your journey, and maybe just tell us kind of what you're talking about in the book, and then some of your key learnings, because you really went through a lot of depression moments to get into this, different place.
Yes, totally. So thank you so much for the invitation. You reached out to me and you were like, hey, we've got this book that we're creating, The Power of Releasing Judgment. Would you like to be part of it? And I was like, yes. And, so I work as a teacher. I've worked as a teacher for the last almost 10 years now, working with kids. So you get to see a lot of like judgment and what that creates and what having no judgment creates. And so I was like, well, I could write about that, or I could write about my personal journey, which was a lot about dealing with depression, coming through depression, knowing that life, or thinking life should be happy, right? Like, and just being miserable for no apparent reason. Like, people go through things, and I just was like, I'm miserable and I don't know why. I don't have any good reason. Like, I haven't, I live a pretty good life. My parents have always provided for me, and yet I'm miserable. And so it kind of started me on this journey of looking at like, well, what would it take to be happy? What would it take to create a life that I really love and that is fulfilling, and where I wake up and I'm happy? And it's an ongoing journey.
But you know what I love about that is having dealt with one child who did go through some depression, there isn't in sort of the bigger culture an easy thing. Like, there's no easy response to it. There's no, and then even my child, she's like, can I take a drug? And I go, well, the answer is the doctor said you can take Prozac. And then we looked into that, and I tried to ask her if her body would respond to that. And instead I got her 2 kittens.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Fit the energy of the house. But I found that the information about depression was really is just so unsatisfying.
Yeah, and I had searched a lot of books. Like, I read a lot of memoirs to kind of see like what other people had gone through, and like I would find that it was like, this is what I went through, and this is what I went through, and this is what I went through. And then one day I was just better, and I was like, well, what do you mean you were just better? Like, how did you just get better? Like, there was no like, these are the tools, these are steps that you can take and you can apply to your life that will make your life better, that will give you more joy. And I had done therapy, and I had tried so many things, and it wasn't until I found these tools through the work of Access Consciousness and actually applying them to my life and using them in my everyday life that it started to shift and started to change. And that's the thing that I love about this chapter. Like, it really started out as a story about me and my journey, and to give people like that sense of it's out there, these things happen, it's not this big like dark secret, but also here are tools that you can use and apply, whether you're dealing with depression or just want your life to be better, that you can take and like play with and create something different and create change. And I always felt like a crazy person because I was like, oh well, life should be fun and like we should enjoy it, and it was like nobody around me seemed to get that concept. It was like, well, you just got to do what you got to do, and life is not always fair, and life is not always fun, and like that's just the reality. And I was like, what do you mean that's the reality?
Yeah.
Like, who decided that?
Well, it's funny because I woke up happy. I came out happy. Yeah. For better or for worse. And then it's really funny because the more tools I do, I get like ridiculously happy.
Oh my gosh.
Like, you can even imagine like having always been happy and then like take these tools. It's like I'm in the stratosphere now of happiness. Like I'm so flippin' whack happy. So I'm driving on the freeway the other day and I'm smiling, I'm playing music, I'm like, and I was trying to feel the energy of the freeway and it was not happy. Like I could feel the collective consciousness around me, and it was like flippin' bombed.
Yeah.
Because it just in my ADD way, I went into a meeting this morning and pretty much everyone in the room was like not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, and part of me in the past would have sped up. Like if I'm even happier, maybe they'll feel happy. Maybe if I'm even like more joyful, they'll get it. But I didn't. I did something very different. I like said, well, you know what's really interesting? What if I slow my energy down? Because I could feel how different I was than like every other human being in the room. So there was 10 people in the room and it was a corporation setting. And so I just went into like, okay, what if I just kind of change my energy differently? And so I slowed my energy and I slowed it again and I slowed it again.
Right? Makes you realize the like.
Yeah. And then everybody else kind of started like smiling and like the whole energy of the room changed, and then people started like really chipping up and yapping and talking, and it was like this really nice environmental shift. And in the past, I think without the tools, I would have just felt odd.
Yeah.
Like I would have just felt like I didn't belong. And just kind of tell me about that, Adelle. Like maybe just share like a tool for when either you feel you're too depressed or you're too this or you're too that. Like, what can you do when you just feel like you don't fit?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've actually been like kind of, because, you know, it's like I said, it's an ongoing journey. So I've kind of been sitting in that recently. Like, I don't really feel like my bubbly self this week. And what will it take to get back to that? And so the first thing, and I know this is not like unique or original, but like just looking around and being like, what can I be grateful for right now? Nice. And like, because no matter like how bad things are, like there's always at least one thing you can be grateful for. Like if you look around and you take your time and you kind of are like, well, I have a roof over my head, or I have a couch to sit on, or I have a friend I can call, or I can go outside and go for a walk, whatever it is. Have Netflix that I can watch when I don't feel like doing anything at all, you know, like whatever it is, like look around and like, if you can find one thing that you can be grateful or happy about for no reason, right? Like just choose it. That can start to shift things and start getting you focused on what's working, as opposed to like, like all the things you're not doing or that's not working that you're judging yourself for. So that's one of the things that's been super awesome. Or find a friend. Like if you really are not able to, like find a friend, phone a friend, like what's something that you are like, you can help me be grateful for, you know, like talk to someone who just thinks the world of you. Because
that, I think that one of the things I just love about the Access Consciousness community is that sense of community, because everyone in it has gone through something, you know, has been in places where life wasn't that good. And then it's like together we shall rise or something, it feels like, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's like that. I keep seeing that phrase of like a rising tide raises all ships.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit, in your chapter you talked about asking questions, and I've been doing some of these summit interviews, but maybe just, why don't you just do like question 1A? Like, I don't understand why you keep asking questions. Like, just pretend I'm totally fresh to all the concepts of everything. And just kind of explain this whole question thing, please.
So one of the best like analogy explanations I've heard is it's like you're walking down a long corridor and the only door that you see is like the door at the end of the hall.
Okay.
And when you ask a question, it opens up like your awareness of what else is possible. So you might be like walking down this hall and all of a sudden like what you thought was like two long solid walls, you're like, oh my gosh, there's a door here, or there's a window there on the sides. And like there's other choices now available. And that may not make cognitive sense, but like one of the questions that that's like awesome is like, so one of the things I found with like dealing with depression was like a lot of times I would make a choice that what didn't actually work for me, but I thought I either had to like do what the other person said or they would get mad. Like neither of those is really a great choice, right? Like, so that doesn't really, like, that's that long hallway, right? Like do what they say or they're going to get mad at you.
Yeah.
Like, or, like go down the hall or get out of the hall. And so that's not really a choice. And so if I could ask like what else is possible or what would work for me that includes them, like then I can actually look at like, okay, this is the choice that I see, right? What else is possible? Like, well, maybe I could ask them if I could do it another time, or like maybe the timing doesn't work, or maybe they don't need me to do it for them. We could do it together. Or you start to consider different options that you might not have seen before. So when you ask a question, it opens up just by like, oh, like it starts to get you thinking about that instead of what you're already focused on.
Nice. I love it. And kind of, that's a great explanation. I really like that. You know, I'm just going to, since I have you and I figure I'm getting a question, and since I've been interviewing since like 84, you mentioned kids and you mentioned this. How would you introduce that to a child who you've never talked to about any of these tools before? So they're not like, you know, you brought them in and the tools and everything. My kids are all like in their teens.
Yeah.
And I'm just learning tools.
Yeah.
And so when I start hearing comments where there's a sense of I only have this one thing. Right. What's something I could do to kind of, or, you know, listeners could do to help teach someone else about it who are kind of like not indoctrinated at all?
Well, so it's really interesting. Like, so we talk about it in Access as tools, right? And that's really cool. And then you're like, it's just questions. Like, if you actually just get curious about like your kids, for example, and you ask them a question, like, I had a session with somebody and I was working with her and her son and like rules at home, and he was like sneaking and not following the rules. And I was like, so what is it about this rule that's like, does it work for you? Did you actually agree to it? Like, and just getting curious, because I'm coming into the situation, I don't actually know what's what. And so I don't have the point of view that he's like trying to sneak or breaking the rules or disrespectful or whatever like her point of view is. And I don't even know that was her point of view. Right. But I was like, so for what reason would you not wear your helmet? And he was like, well, the padding got taken out and it was itchy or it was hurting. I was like, did you even know that was going on? So when you ask questions, you get information, and it's really just like getting curious.
Yeah.
And that's where the gratitude comes in, is like a lot of times the judgments, we get caught up in like what our point of view is, what we've decided is the situation. Mm-hmm. And it's not always true. It might like have nothing to do with what is really going on. Like, so her point of view might be he's being disrespectful or he's being rebellious. And his point of view is like, it just hurts to wear my helmet. Like, if I had a helmet that felt good, I'd wear it. Like, yeah. And that may have never even registered, but like asking the question, you get information. So with kids, it's like, well, so what's actually going on here for you? Like, what do you know? And kids aren't, a lot of times, like, parents have so much stuff about what it means to be a parent, so many judgments and points of view about that they are caught up in what their responsibility is, that they don't necessarily ask their kids, like, hey, what do you know about this? And it doesn't have to be in those words, but like, what's going on here? Okay, I'm going to throw another one at you. This is really fun. Yeah. I'm going to get you know what? My summits are free counseling for me. Who appreciate I'm sure you're the only one that this is beneficial for. So far, mostly my questions almost always are helping someone else, but let's just also let them help me. So here's another weird situation. I'm going to get to-go Panda Express. One of my daughters says, I'll go with you. Panda Express Chinese food, right? Huh? You're talking about Chinese food? Yeah. Okay, just so checking. She jumps in the car to go with me. Mm-hmm. We get there, and then she doesn't want to get out of the car. And I'm like, okay, well,
I mean, in my head, she was coming to help me. In her head, I don't even know.
Right.
So I look at her, I'm like, no, you need to come in with me and help me carry out the food for the whole family, which is way more than 2. And but I don't even, at that point, I'm so in what you should do, and what I planned and what I thought and this and that.
Yeah.
I'm so far in conclusion.
Yeah.
And then I start judging her. Why does she hate being outside? Like, why does she hate people looking at her? Like, why? And I just start going into, is she going to be an agoraphobic? Is she going to spend her life in her room? And I like take it to like 40,000 places.
Yeah.
And then I really want to make her get out of the car, because I want her to see it's okay to go out of the car when you're not, whatever.
Yeah.
So how could I have handled that with more decorum or consciousness?
Well, so here's a couple of questions I have for you. So did she go to help you with the food, or did she go to spend time with you in the car?
I just got time with me in the car.
Yeah. So by the time you got there, she was kind of already done. Like she had gotten, which she was there for.
She got her mom fix.
Right? Like, and if you look at that though, like how sweet is that? Like she was actually there to be with you.
True. I get that. I got a full yes when you asked.
Got that in the moment? Like, would that have changed that whole conversation in your head?
Oh, so she wasn't going to go be outside and be in the public. She was just going to get a little bit of one-on-one with me when the other kids aren't around.
Right. And or maybe not. Like that may just be
that was a yes.
But, right? That seems really, you're like, oh yeah, totally.
Yes.
And usually like I know my mom, if I told her that, like she'd be ecstatic because she always wanted more time with me. Like for her is like the hugest thing. And yes, she would have also been like, well, since you're here, like you should help me because
Yeah.
And I wonder, had you ever asked her like, hey, since you're here, will you help me carry stuff? And if you just put it as a question.
Oh, she would have said no though.
Okay.
Because her body didn't want to.
Yeah. So, and I wonder too, like, is your daughter really aware?
Yes.
So when she goes into a place like that, does she become super aware of the bodies and what they are creating with eating the food and what their judgments are of her, of you, of themselves, of like all of that flying around?
Right.
And does that impact her in a certain way that it might not impact you or other people?
Yeah, because I don't even it doesn't impact me.
Yeah. Because you choose joy. Like when you're choosing joy, it's so much easier to not be affected by that. If we make those judgments real, it's like little rocks, like.
So she's seeing it as a way to she might feel bad.
It might physically like hurt her to go inside.
Because people might look at her and judge her, and they might.
Or they might not even be judging her, but just her awareness of that judgment. Because judgments are pretty like, ugh, if you have that awareness of them in that way. And that's part of what caused the depression for me. So like one of the first tools or questions that I heard was, who does this belong to? Like, what if you're just aware of other people's like gunk?
Right.
And that created so much lightness and so much space for me. And I still am aware of stuff and I become more aware, and it becomes sometimes even harder.
Right.
Oh, I'm just aware of this. It's not mine, because it feels like my own judgment of myself sometimes.
Right.
So I wonder, like, for your daughter, like, just going in there might feel really depressing.
Right.
Because it feels like her own judgments of herself.
That's beautiful. And I definitely am more of a sponge now that I've done all these tools. I mean, I actually consciously, but it's really fun because I'm conscious of it. So I don't take it the way I used to. Like I can leave a place and feel bad and be aware of feeling bad and then say, that's not mine.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that insight.
And just going back to one of your previous questions, so like for how would you invite her to the tools, or is just like, so is giving her an awareness by asking those questions, like, so is that actually yours, or is it something you're aware of? Is it something you're perceiving? Like, or, you know, ask her, like, what's going on for you? Is there something like that you, like, what do you know about why you don't want to go in? You know, what does that create for you? What is that like for you? And again, like, just getting really curious.
Yeah.
Because she knows there's a reason why she's not choosing to go inside.
Yeah.
And if you start asking those questions, you get so much information, so much more awareness, and then you can do something from there. You have different choices available.
And I think too, like if we're gonna like kind of micro look at that specific scenario, since I threw it into the paper, I threw it onto the page. Since she hadn't prepared, she does a preparation when she's gonna go out. And at almost 15, there's a hyper consciousness of hair and whether it's straight enough or whether it's this enough or, you know, how she looks or would she wear her glasses or not, or, you know, it's hard for me because I look at my kids and they're so flippin' beautiful. Like to me, they just look astonishingly beautiful. Like I look at them and I'm just like, oh my God, you know, this is just amazing how beautiful you are. But that's not how they see themselves. They see themselves differently, layered with concerns about what everyone's thinking.
Right.
So when you asked me that question, I wasn't really honoring her need to feel poised to go out.
Right.
Which is very different when you're 15 than when, like me.
For sure. For sure. Yeah,
I
there's
wasn't really
so
listening to her body like at all.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like then you get that awareness and then you're like, okay, well, so if I was honoring her, what would I make? What different choice would I make? And then you can use that the next time that something like that comes up. And it just starts to create so much more ease for you, more ease for her, because like what you went into, I'm sure she was aware of that. Like now she's like, oh no, I've like disappointed mom, or like I'm not doing the right thing, or whatever that might bring up, which isn't like, none of that's real, right? Like she was doing what she needed to do and like was really sweet and really awesome. And there was this expectation and expectations, projections, like where you zoom it into the future, those are all judgments. Those are all points of view that we come to, or conclusions that we create based on something that's like not founded in anything.
Yeah.
And one of the times I got like what judgment is, I was driving across country when I moved out to California with my brother, and we were in the car a lot together, and he was like, God, you're such a bleep bloop bleep bloop. And I was like, oh, I can't believe you just like literally called me a bleep bloop bleep bloop. And I was like, oh, I can't believe you just called me that. And then I was like, that's insane. That doesn't mean anything. That is ridiculous. And that's really like all judgments are as ridiculous as that is, because they're all founded on absolutely nothing.
Wow.
And the thing is, it's like, that's what it is. It's like there's an incongruence between what is actually going on. Like your daughter wanted to go for a ride in the car with you, and what we've decided, like she's here to help me and now she's not helping me. And it's like we just create these things and then we drive ourselves crazy with them. And if you just stop and look at like, okay, what's actually going on here, it becomes so much lighter. What's true for you always make you feel lighter. And if it's not, if it's like crunchy and like, man, you're cranky, like something in there is not true for you. And if you can get clear on what that is, then you can make a different choice.
I love it. Thank you so much, Adele. I feel like I could just like interview you for like the rest of your life.
It was such a pleasure.
What did you happen next to them? How did you get there next? And since I can't do that, I'm going to let people contact you. You're in San Francisco. Tell us a little bit more how we can find you, and then what you'd like people to hire you to do or help them with.
Sure. So I do, mostly I do private facilitation sessions. So working with people one-on-one or in relationships through transitions, whether that's moving or changes in relationship, changes in family, changes in jobs, and making that shift much easier and kind of guiding people through that and helping them to follow what's true for them. And right now you can find me online at my website. If you Google Access Your Awesomeness with Adelle, it will be changing in the future. It's going to be King Consulting, but we're not quite there yet.
Well,
Or
on the side of this interview on the webpage, if people are on the webpage listening to this, we'll have a link and we can change it
awesome.
when you change it. So
Excellent. And or you can find me on the Access Consciousness website, accessconsciousness.com, and I'm a certified facilitator there, and you can find me under my name, Adelle King.
Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.